You know what's worse than a lie? Not hatred, not betrayal, not even death. Worse than a lie is silence. Yes, that's right, silence. That very silence you sit in when someone asks, "How are you?" And you say nothing. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you're afraid. Afraid that you won't be understood. Afraid that you'll be judged. Afraid that you'll become a burden. And so you stay silent for years, thinking you're strong, that you're patient, that you're wise. But in reality, you're just quietly dying inside. Because silence isn't strength. Silence is a wall. A wall between you and those who love you. And that wall grows every day, quieter, more subtly, more securely. And then one day you look at your kids, your grandkids, your wife or husband, and you realize you're with them, but you're not really with them. You're close, but you're far away. You're breathing, but you're not living because you stayed silent for too long, too quietly, too wisely. And so today, I'll tell you one thing, something very important. When someone asks, "How are you?" sometimes you need to answer. Not always, not to everyone, but sometimes, yes. And the silence you hide and destroys just as much as a lie. Sometimes even more. My name is Kareem. I'm over 80 years old. I've lived a long life, and for most of it, I stayed silent. I stayed silent when things were bad. I stayed silent when I was scared. I stayed silent when I wanted to scream. I stayed silent when I wanted to cry. I stayed silent when I wanted to hug someone and say, "I love you." I stayed silent because it was easier that way, because it seemed more proper. Because that's how we were taught. A man doesn't complain, an old man doesn't cry. Don't be a burden, handle it yourself. And I did handle it. But do you know what I lost? I lost connection. Connection with my sons, with my wife, with my friends, and with myself. Because when you keep quiet about your pain, you don't become stronger. You become a stranger to those around you. And to yourself as well. I want to tell you a story. This was 20 years ago. I was 63. I lived alone. My wife had left 3 years earlier. My sons lived in different cities. They called rarely. I didn't call them. I thought, why bother them? They have their own lives, their own families, their own problems. Why should they have to deal with mine too? And then one Saturday, I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea, looking out the window, when I heard the doorbell. Then it rang again and again. It was my grandchildren. 3 girls, 7, 9, and 11 years old. They showed up with their mom, unannounced. The door opened, and they burst in with shouts, laughter, and hugs. The youngest, Lena, jumped onto my lap, hugged me around the neck and said, "Grandpa, why don't you call us? We think you don't love us." And I didn't know what to say, because the truth was, I did love them. I loved them more than anything in the world, but I stayed silent. Out of love, out of respect, out of wisdom, out of habit. And here my 7-year-old granddaughter looks at me with her big eyes and says, "Grandpa, you just stay quiet. And we think you're angry. We don't know what's going on in your head. Please, tell us." And at that moment, I understood. I understood one simple thing: silence is not a gift. Silence is emptiness. And into that emptiness, people project their fears, their guesses, their resentments, because they have nothing else to fill that silence with except their imagination. And imagination is always worse than the truth. Always. Master Bao, the one I told you about before, the one who lived in the mountains. He once told me something like this. We were sitting by the fire, it was winter, the wind was howling outside, and he was looking at the flames and said, "Kareem, do you know what silence is? Silence is when no one ever speaks. Silence is when the one who stays quiet takes the air out of the room, and the people nearby start to suffocate. Not right away, slowly, without noticing, but they suffocate and then leave. Not because they want to leave, but because they have nothing left to breathe." And he looked at me and added, "Don't confuse wisdom with silence. Wisdom is when you speak at the right time. Silence is when you're afraid to speak at all. And there's a very wide and very deep chasm between them. So, remember this. Wisdom and silence are 2 different things. A wise person is silent when it's needed, but a silent person is always silent. And that's a huge difference. Now I'll tell you about 3 situations, 3 moments in life when silence does more harm than words. The first situation is with children. When someone asks you, "How are you?" and you stay silent. Your children think, "He's not doing well, but he's not saying anything." That means he doesn't trust us. That means we can't help. That means he doesn't need us. And they grow distant not because they want to, but because there's nowhere for them to come closer. Your silence is a wall, and a wall doesn't ask if you want to climb over it. It just stands there, and people get used to walking around it, and then eventually forget that there's even someone behind the wall. The second situation, friends, is when a friend asks, "How are you?" and you respond with silence or a one-word answer like, "Fine," or "Everything's good." Your friend thinks, "Well, I guess everything's fine. I guess there's nothing to worry about. I guess he'll manage. I guess I can go about my own business." And then he leaves. Not out of anger, not out of indifference, but out of politeness, because you let him know that everything was fine. And he believed you, but he was wrong. A year later, 2 years, 5 years down the road, you find out he was thinking about you, he was worried, but he didn't know how to approach you because you closed the door with your silence. The third situation is the scariest. It's when you stay silent with yourself. When you're sitting there at 4 in the morning, alone in the quiet, and inside, you're screaming. Pain is screaming, fear is screaming, loneliness is screaming, longing is screaming. But you stay silent even for yourself. You don't even admit to yourself and your thoughts that you're not okay. You tell yourself, "Well, everything's fine. Everyone lives like this. There's nothing to complain about, others have it even worse." And that's the most dangerous kind of silence, because when you lie to yourself, you lose your last ally, yourself. You know, there are 3 types of silence. I've thought about this for a long time and came to the conclusion that there are 3 kinds of silence. The first type is wise silence. This is when you stay silent because you know that saying something right now won't help, or because you're waiting for the right moment. This kind of silence is good, it protects you, gives you time, and brings clarity. The second type is cowardly silence. This is when you stay silent because you're afraid of how people will react, afraid of being judged, afraid someone will say, "Stop whining," or afraid you'll become a burden. This kind of silence is destructive. It doesn't protect you, it isolates you. It builds a wall where a bridge is needed. And the third type is selfish silence. This is when you stay silent not because you're afraid or waiting, but because you think people shouldn't bother you, that you're above it all, that you don't need anyone, that you can handle everything on your own. This kind of silence doesn't destroy you, but those who love you, because they want to help, but you don't give them a chance. Now, listen to what I'm going to say next. This is the most important part of the whole video. There are moments when you need to speak up. Not always, not to everyone, but there are moments. And here's how to recognize them. If you feel something tightening inside, if you feel like you want to cry but don't let yourself, if you feel like calling someone but put the phone down, if you feel like hugging someone but pull away, that means it's time to speak. It's time to say it. Not to the whole world, not all over the internet, not out on the street. To one person, the one you trust, the one who won't judge, the one who will just listen and say, "I hear you, I'm here, you're not alone." That's it, that's all you need. Not a solution to the problem, not advice, not instructions, just being there. Just one honest phrase, "I'm not okay." 3 words, just 3. And the wall comes down. I want to tell you another story. This was not long ago. I was already over 75. I met someone. He was 72. His name was Gennady. He was a lot like me, quiet, reserved, not much of a talker. We often sat together on a bench in the park, both of us silent. And it felt comfortable because we both understood silence is okay. But one day Gennady said to me, "Kareem, do you know what I regret the most?" That I stayed silent. I stayed silent for 40 years. With my wife, with my kids, with my friends. I thought it was strength, that it was courage, that it was wisdom. But now, when my wife is gone, when my kids are in other cities, when my friends have all moved away, I realize it wasn't strength, it was cowardice. I was afraid that people would see the real me, with all my cracks, all my pain, all my fears. And I hid behind silence, behind calmness, behind a manly demeanor. And now I sit here alone, with no one to talk to, because everyone got used to it. He keeps quiet, he can handle it, he doesn't complain, he doesn't ask for help, he's strong. And this strength, it made me lonely. The loneliest thing in the world is being strong all by yourself. Because strength without a witness is just survival. And life isn't just about surviving. Life is when someone truly sees you and says, I know it's hard for you. And I'm here with you. And Gennady fell silent. And so did I. We sat on that bench for a long time, and I thought, here it is, the answer, here it is, that very balance. Don't stay silent, don't shout, just find one person, just one, and say 3 words to them, I need help. Now for something practical. 3 things you can do today. Not tomorrow, today. First, write down 1 sentence on paper, I'm feeling bad right now because. And finish the sentence. Be honest. For yourself. Not for anyone else, just for yourself. Look at these words, read them out loud, and ask yourself, when was the last time I said this to someone? If you can't remember, it's been too long. And that means it's time. Second, call 1 person. Not 10, not 5, just 1. Someone you trust. And say, you know, I've been meaning to tell you for a while now, sometimes things are hard for me. I just wanted you to know. That's all. You don't need to explain, you don't need to justify yourself, you don't need to ask for help. Just say it and see what happens. I guarantee you, this person will say, thanks for telling me. I had no idea. I thought everything was fine with you. And in that moment, the wall will come down between you and inside you. The third and hardest thing, stop being afraid of honesty. Honesty isn't weakness. Honesty is courage. To say, I'm not okay, isn't complaining, it's an invitation to closeness, to help, to life. Because life without honesty is death. A quiet, unnoticed death surrounded by people, among whom you are just a ghost who always answers, I'm fine, to any question, and whom no one truly knows. And in closing, I want to tell you one last thing. When someone asks, how are you? Sometimes you need to answer honestly. Not always, not to everyone, but sometimes, yes. When your son asks, tell him. When your daughter asks, tell her. When your grandson asks, tell him. When your friend asks, tell them. When you ask yourself, answer. Don't stay silent, don't hide, don't just say, I'm fine, don't pretend everything's okay, be honest. At least say 1 word, it's hard, I'm lonely, I miss you, it hurts, I'm scared. Just 1 word, and the wall will come down, and you'll become human again. Not just a silhouette, not just a shadow, not just a strong old man, but a person who truly lives, with pain, with joy, with hope, with everything. Because life isn't just about the good, and it's not just about the bad. Life is everything. And if you hide half of yourself, you live only halfway, and living halfway isn't really living, it's just existing. And I want you to live truly, fully, honestly, even if it's just for 1 person, even if it's just for yourself. My old teacher Master Bao once shared a profound truth with me. Silence is a good thing when it is chosen freely, but when it is forced upon you by fear, it becomes a cold and lonely prison. And the most difficult and painful prison to escape is the one where you are your own judge, your own prisoner, and your own key. But you are simply too terrified to actually turn the lock and open it. Don't be afraid. Open the door, tell the truth to at least 1 person, say at least 1 word, and see what happens. The world won't collapse, people won't leave, your kids won't be upset, your friends won't judge you. They'll say, thank you for sharing. I'm here, I hear you. And that's enough. That's more than enough. Peace to your home and honesty to your heart. I've said my piece.